Bonjour mes amis, mes collègues, bonjour, bienvenue, okay? We're going to be using either English or French today, however you prefer. This is the ATF Hybrid Learning Series for French teachers, blending the classroom. And so this is our first session. We're very excited to welcome you to the principles of hybrid flipped learning. And if you notice, the Zoom code was down here. And if you are participating in subsequent sessions, you'll most likely see the Zoom code 24 hours either in your email or in the presentation that we're going to share with you. So we're trying to get everybody, there are so many questions about how we get our emails, and I'm going to share a few thoughts with you on how to make sure that you're getting the emails from the ATF. Okay, so we have a couple people waiting, and we're going to let those people in, of course. So as we go in, today we have Susie Hennessy from California, Catherine Ritz from Massachusetts, and I'm Catherine Rousselin from Washington State. We're going to introduce ourselves in just a few moments, but just a real quick meeting request and norms, as we are a very large group. Okay, we're going to just be respectful of other people's speaking times. We will have some breakout times. And if you have further questions, if there's something that you need some help with, you may email a presenter after the meeting or connect with somebody on our Padlet. And we are going to be coming from different perspectives and locales. So please just be respectful of different approaches to teaching, learning procedures. You don't need to display your video the entire time, but please keep your microphone muted for right now. And then we ask again, please change your name, your screen name, to your real name so that we can easily identify you. And to do that, you just mouse over your video if you're using a computer. And there's two blue buttons. One says mute and then the three dots. And you will be able to rename yourself by clicking on those. So it's something that we recognize. So I'll come back here in just a second to our full pictures. Welcome. So I'm going to start with Susie. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Susie Hennessy, and I am in Sacramento, California. I teach French at Inderkum High School, which is an IB school. And I teach primarily first and second year French, but this year we'll be teaching a senior class of IB students. My background is actually in higher education. I taught at the college level for about 16 years, and I've been teaching high school for 4 years now, starting my 5th year this fall.
Catherine.
Bonjour. Hi, everybody. So it's interesting because I kind of went the other way. I was a French and mostly French, also some Spanish, middle and high school teacher for almost 15 years, and then a department head in a public school district just outside of Boston. And I, 3 years ago, switched into teacher education. So I'm now at Boston University, where I'm teaching like methods courses, and I'm working with people who are becoming world language teachers. So I have a lot of fun kind of mentoring new French teachers. So I'm trying to bring more people into our wonderful profession. So it's really nice to meet everyone.
It's wonderful. That would be just one of my next steps in life, is to just welcome people into our profession. It is an exciting time to be a teacher. So my name is Catherine Rousselin. I'm in Washington State. I have French 2 through AP in Mount Vernon, Washington. It's kind of by a volcano, kind of by the ocean. It's a great place to be. We're welcoming you to this the first webinar in 5 series. You don't have to be here in person because these are being recorded and they'll be shared out. We have your emails, so we'll let you know when they're posted. They'll also be on French Teachers in the USA. And we will, of course, have this on the ATF Facebook page. If you haven't liked the ATF Facebook page, please go there and put us in one of your first queues. Yes, we do. Heather, you're such a cheerleader for French teachers, and I would have been just tickled pink. My French teachers were amazing, but Heather Tedder, if you don't know her, she's your top lady today. I would like to say just a reminder, please check your name, that you've got your real name on there. And then let's just talk real quick about your email. I received many emails from all over saying we didn't get the join code. And there's a couple things that I noticed in the spreadsheet when you filled out the Google form, is that if you spelled @gmail.con, okay, like the Spanish word, we'll say it that way, your email bounced. So if you don't type your email perfectly, on one of them there was a space between the @ and Gmail. The way that we grab those from the spreadsheet, there's no way to error check. So when you're giving us your email, just double, triple check that you've got that typed correctly, that you didn't invert 2 letters. There's so many things that can happen when we're typing fast. As we model for our students, double and triple check your email. The other thing is, if you need support, you can write me, so you have, most of you have my email, you know how to find me, or you can connect with Jana Brott or Lindsay Gibbons at the AATF headquarters. We're trying to help them out by fielding most of the questions, so there's plenty of people to help you out. I usually send out the join code within 24 hours of our meeting, so it doesn't get passed around to the internet and we have issues on that, but we're ready for that. So our next session will be coming up. Of course, we have 5 of them, and I'm going to give you a little graphic so that you can see what we have for the next sessions. And some of you on your Google registration said, oh, I don't need that one, or I'm more interested in that one. So let's just take a look. Today is July 28th. August 18th, we're going to be moving from interpretive to personal tasks. We have some excellent presenters. We'll talk to you about that in a few moments. September 8th is assessment and feedback. September 29th is presentational writing and speaking. And then October 20th, we've made it through the first few months. It's going to be reflections on success and next steps for the future. So if your questions today deal with any one of those topics, please either wait for the next session or discuss them on the Padlets. We're going to try and stay within our 1-hour time frame, of course, so that we can focus on what we did. And as you got this presentation that was sent out to you, you were introduced to 3 modules from our presenters. If you haven't gone through those yet, they're there, the presentation, we can share that in the chat. We've got Susie's, which is the guiding principles. She's got a couple of articles and a check for understanding plus 2 videos. Then we have Catherine Ritz, and she was working on the learning tasks. Okay, so independent learning tasks, you have her video and some links. And then, of course, my last one is just maximizing time in a flipped classroom. You'll have several resources that I'd like you just to explore from this presentation. One of them being the Wakelet resource collection, and that is going to be an excellent place for you to do some more personal learning. So we've gone through and curated tweets and articles and videos on a couple of topics, including resilient pedagogy. That's a very big word today, about how we design pedagogy, how we design our units and curriculum to maybe flip on a dime. So if you're starting out face-to-face and all of a sudden your school goes to virtual, how are you going to do that? And that resilient pedagogy, it requires planning for important interactions that facilitate learning. So you can look through those, several good ones already out there from different levels, higher ed, middle school, and the high school levels. So we're set. There's also going to be, if you look down just a little bit more, the distance and hybrid learning. We can definitely look at how we're going to make the most of synchronous and asynchronous learning. And those are great. They have some graphics, some visuals, some infographics for you as a teacher. You're going to find that there's some things that you want to focus on and some things that you might have to let go. And what I'm going to offer to you is to just start reflecting on this. So that's our overview. We have lots of learning for the next 4 sessions that come up, but today we're going to start out with a breakout room. We're going to be in, let's just say, randomized groups. We have 390 people. We're going to try and make this small. It'll be about 8 minutes long, so it will go quick. Our first topic for the breakout room is just your overarching questions. What are the big topics? And what we'd like you to do is choose one person from your group who is going to go on to our Padlet. I will get you the Padlet addressed here in a second, and choose 2 or 3 burning questions that you have from the group. Okay, then that person will go on to the Padlet, your delegate, and would put those in. And then Catherine is going to take them, pull them off, and then we're going to talk about them. So you have about 8 minutes to just brief introduction. What are your main big questions for the group? So maybe if everyone just kind of throws them out, one person from your group, go to the chat right now and you'll see the Padlet link. You can click on that, go put your questions up there, and then when we come back, we're going to start discussing those. Okay. Quick questions in the chat. Yes, the presentation, I will put that link in there in just a moment. And I know that, Catherine, you had a special way to do the presenter one. I'm just going to grab this one for right now, but we can do that one. Yeah, we can do that one later, again, the presenter version. And then when you come back, we'll just start answering the questions. So there were questions about how that they were not able to watch the videos. It depends if you were on a phone or if you were in presenter mode. If you're completely unable to play it, try a different device. We always say that to our students. So if you're on your phone, try a computer. If you're on a computer, maybe change your browser. We're flexible, but it's just figuring out what's the best way, because I have tried it on my sister's phone and computer and tablet. I promise they work. Catherine, do you have any other suggestions on that?
No, on the,
Okay.
viewing the video on presenter. If not, I guess reach out to one of us. But the permissions are open, so they're view all. Once you have the link, they're open to anyone. So I think that's a good idea to try a different device.
So on this first breakout, and this is our only breakout, there's going to be about 11 to 12 people. You're going to choose one delegate who's going to go to that Padlet link. And that Padlet, thank you, Heidi, for putting it in there again. You're going to discuss your big burning topics, put them on the Padlet, and then we'll come back. You'll get a little notification when it's time to come back. If you have any questions, we'll be here in the main room if you want to pop out, and then we'll put you back in another room. Okay, I think we have everyone back. I hope, and that was a quick introduction. I know you had lots of burning questions. Catherine Witz has been organizing them for us, and we're going to take turns going through the top 10, what Catherine saw as the themes, but please, when we have a question, put your answers in the chat. If you've just all of a sudden thought of something, because we are in 33 different rooms, we can share ideas in the chat. And as this chat is being recorded, everything that you type, then you'll be able to go back and look through it. And that, you know, we have something like 350 participants that will have some good ideas for you. So we're going to get started on the first question, and that is preps and time. How can teachers manage their time when they have 5 preps? Oh my goodness, welcome to the world of French teachers. We have so many. Along the same lines, how can we minimize different lesson plans to make our workload lighter? I'm going to say, Susie, how many preps do you have? What are your thoughts on this one?
I will probably have 4 preps this year. And what I would recommend is that we think about, it's not necessarily the kinds of tasks, but the difficulty of the tasks that we ask our students to do. So in my mind, I might take the same theme or the same unit, and for French 1, have them working for specific objectives. And for French 2, they might have the same theme, but they will have slightly modified objectives. So you're asking them to do at a higher level, you're asking them to do a little bit more with the language. So I would, if I'm teaching 5 levels, I might have 1 unit that would be for French 1 and 2, and then another unit for 3, 4, and 5, and just vary the level of difficulty for those units. So that way you're not recreating the wheel, but you're going into more depth for higher levels.
That's excellent. That's exactly what I did this first session when we were broken out, is I took French 3, 4, and technically AP, and made the same unit with the same essential questions, but the tasks were leveled for that level, for the different groups. And that worked out really well, because then if I had an open session time where I could have the kids from French 3, 4 or AP come in and have a office hour, we could all talk about the same things that we read. So you can always adapt the task. You can always adapt the task to the level. Catherine, any thoughts on that one?
No, I think that's a great suggestion. I'm seeing some of the questions that are coming in the chat related to this. So certainly having a theme, a thematic unit versus somebody put a question about a textbook. The textbook's not going to let you do the theme. And so, yes, we spend a lot of time finding authentic resources, and they can be, if you find one that can work for a novice, it can be, and that's not our topic for today, but just briefly, you can make a task that's more challenging for intermediate or different proficiency level students. So starting with a theme. The thing I would also say, like referring back to the presentation that I recorded on the independent learning tasks, is like find your structure now, and then like get that organization out of the way. How am I going to set up what I'm sending home to kids? And then, you know, you're copying over that slide. It's like setting it up takes a lot of time in the beginning, and then you have it and you're just sort of copying it over and making small edits for each of the lessons, and that would help. If there's a chance to find collaboration partners, maybe that's something you guys can put in the chat now. I'm teaching a level 1 theme. Anyone want to work with me? I mean, that might be something to also consider to share the load. But it's definitely, I think teaching 5 preps under normal circumstances is a ton of work. So let's just like put that out there. It's a ton. And now it's going to be a different ton of work. So.
And it can be fun, this ton. It can be, because if you are connecting your students along the levels with the same thematic topics, etc., and you have some essential questions that are shared, that would be great. The student teacher one, let's save that for we've got some great questions that Catherine is putting in for the next webinars. So we're trying to kind of keep it focused on this one. So we're going to move on to our next question. Hopefully that first one was set up for you. It's question 2. Should we do teacher-made videos in English or French? When should we use English or French in virtual hybrid learning? I'm going to start with that one, if that's okay, because I did a lot of videos this first session that we had in distance learning. I did want to keep up the community with my students, so I always started my videos with just I miss you so much. I'm thinking of you. I threw out some like class jokes that we had, our shared class community jokes, and I started those in English because I wanted the students to not just turn the video on and hear a bunch of French, right? And then I said, and now we're going to transition into our lesson, and I had props, I had my whiteboard, I had a green screen that I was using, and that's when I went into French. But of course, just like in class, when I would just do a quick check for understanding. So now you're thinking about this, you're going to come back and, now did we use une banane or un banane? You know, I did a real quick check for understanding for them, just like it would have in class. Maybe I would say, just say it out loud with me. Let's try it together. And I did that in English. If you know, and I didn't do a lot of hard grammar teaching, but the little things that I did, I gave the examples in English and French because I'm not there to support them with my visual cues. I used both languages, and I kept it wholly comprehensible French. That is the most important thing for us, our students right now, is that they feel like they can understand us. Susie or Catherine?
Yeah, I guess what I would say is we need to go back to our objectives. What are your objectives for the lesson? Is it for them to understand the technological terms in French? Or do you want them to be able to understand how to use the technology so that they can accomplish the actual class objectives? So especially with beginners, I give my instructions in English. I usually use Screencastify to give an overview of the lesson and explain to them in English exactly what they're going to be doing. And then any written instructions that they have in Google Classroom, for example, are usually in English. I don't want the distance to be a barrier and something that would make them give up on the lesson. So try to make it as easy for them as possible to get into the lesson and understand what they need to do. And then at the higher levels, I think if you get into 3rd and 4th year, as soon as you're confident that they understand the terminology, maybe it's okay to give instruction in French, but definitely not at the lower levels in the beginning.
So I would add, oh, sorry, anytime we talk about target language use, so the 90% plus standard that ACTFL has established for us, so there's like a 10% in there that's English. So the differentiation for me between French target language use and English is it content or is it processing my learning? And the processing my learning, I feel fine at 10% being English. So if it's like you said, if the content is to learn how to talk about technology tools, then I want to do that in French. But if I'm just helping you process like this tool, you know, you need to make a decision there on what, when you're really focusing on the content of the unit, and keep that in French and make it very comprehensible using all the strategies we know how to do, versus we're really processing our learning. So giving feedback, just helping students navigate if you're using a new tech platform, like, okay guys, overview, like this is not the content of what we're learning. This is just like getting familiar with this site. So I would make some decisions and then just be consistent.
That's a great, okay, so that's 3 great ideas. I'm going to share the screen real quick because someone came up with a really good question is, can the AATF create some groups to help the teachers through this process? So if you go onto our AATF Facebook page, okay, so it looks like that. And then we're going to, if it sounds like the group said yes, we do have a members support for online teaching group. That's one thing, but I can create more groups, and I won't do a group for every single textbook or every single level, but I can create maybe 3 or 4 groups and invite you to give me at least 3 days to get this set up. I'm with my family right now, and I kind of haven't spent any time with them for 4 years, so I will spend that and then get those up hopefully by Friday. So if you haven't been on the ATF Facebook page, go there, look for our groups, and I will add you as you just click on it and you can join a group. Okay. Oh, look, someone already just right now joined that group. You are on top of this, Monica. Wow. Okay. So we're going to go to our next question, number 3. We have the question, what are some tips, principles to help prepare students either at the middle school or high school to have success in hybrid settings, given that they will need help with self-regulation? That is a very deep question, because what we're asking of our students is change from what you thought school was, that classroom, to this room that I'm sitting in right now with my family above me going bum, 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 and us having one computer or one device. First insights? Catherine or Susie?
Yeah, so you're totally right. Like, this is, in March, it was like, oh my God, all of a sudden everything shut down. It was just crazy. So now we have a little like deep breath planning all the time, although certainly not enough. If you are lucky enough that you're going to see your kids face to face for like the first day or week, I think starting with like getting them familiar with whatever the virtual platform is that you're using, and like making sure they know where everything is, they know how to navigate it. So if you're kind of going to be flowing back and forth between face to face and distance, if you're in a hybrid model or things just shut down again, then we're in a better position that the kids know how to find things. I think that would be a helpful way to start the year. If you're not going to see them face to face, there's where I would do some English videos, being like, sending it home. The kids can hear you speaking. Here's where we're using everything so they can find stuff. I think that would be a place to start. In terms of helping students self-regulate, I thought it was so interesting, the article that Susie shared for us to read, that they were talking a lot about university, and they referenced like, high school kids are going to have trouble because they can't self-regulate. Well, this is true. There's a reason why distance learning is more prevalent at the university level than the K-12 level. So I think we need to really chunk and break down the tasks for students so that there's a small, accomplishable tasks that you have some kind of a check every day. So like with my university students, I give them an assignment for the week and they hand it in at the end, right? And they're fine. But for high school, middle school students, elementary, I need a small daily check. So if somebody gets off track, I have feedback earlier so that I can intervene.
And I think one way to do that is to have some sort of built-in check for understanding, just like we would have an exit ticket in the classroom. You can use Google Forms or some sort of check for understanding so they know where they stand at the end of the lesson. And the other thing that I would emphasize, and this was one of the questions in the check for understanding that I did based on that reading, was don't reteach anything that was part of their homework. So if you give students an assignment to do, once you're meeting with them virtually or face-to-face, don't reteach that material, because those students that did that work, they don't need to hear it again, and they'll be discouraged for having done the work. Whereas those that didn't do the work, they will understand that, I do need to complete these assignments before I meet with my class again. So that's really important to emphasize in the beginning.
And then one last suggestion on this, if I have a moment, is that when I did my my sessions for my students, is that I did 1 slide a day. So that 1 slide for the week, excuse me, so that they knew, here's step 1, here's step 2, and each task had its own number, and it was on a path, so that they knew the things. It was like a checklist, and you can there's so many great templates for making, if you're using Seesaw or if you're using slides, just that the kids explicitly know the top 3 things I'm supposed to do, so that when you come back and ask for that accountability, they can't say, I don't know what I was supposed to do. We have to be so distinct and explicit in our directions that we are going to, okay, yep, I hear. Just make sure you map it out for them. And we're going to talk about that. One last thing. Everyone that I see in the chat is asking me to make this on Canvas because you don't use Facebook. And I'll point out, I can't make multiple groups on multiple platforms, but if most people say Canvas, I will look into that and get that started. But let's go on to our next question. And that is number 4. Oh my, feedback. There were examples in the presentations about giving feedback. Can you talk about more about providing feedback in a hybrid environment? So I would like to show you about what I do, and I'm going to share my screen on this, okay? This is something I gave in my presentation. There's lots of ways you can do this. This is where I'd rather be. I'm sorry, Hawaii is beautiful, but let's go back up here. I use, okay, now there's Zoom, there's Loom, L-O-O-M, and then there's Screencastify and Screencast-O-Matic. There are many ways that you can do a screen recording. So let's imagine that my students submitted their work either on Google Slides or on a Google Doc or whatever platform you're using. I can use Screencastify, which is a free add-on. And I know that it's not going to pop up entirely perfect right now. I have the webcam off, but I could be in the webcam if I want to look at my student and talk to them. If I record my screen as I'm giving them feedback, I can highlight, okay? And you know, on Google Docs, if you're using that, is that you can make a comment. And that's one way to type them in. But if you're recording your screen as you talk and you highlight and you're explaining to your students, maybe you want to add something here or change this there. And that creates a link for you right away that you can share back to the students. So as soon as you're done with your comments, either vocal or video or just written ones, send that back to your students and then follow up with them. You can assign a comment to them that makes sure that they look at it. And that's kind of a fun way. It's a sneaky way. When you go into comment, and I'm going to minimize the pictures here, you can at your student, there's me, okay, I'm going to put myself as being the student, and it says assign to. And that means is that they will get a notification that they have something to do or that you've given the video to them. Go check your email because I've left you some comments. So other thoughts on that for giving feedback. Oh, the question about Screencastify. To get Screencastify, let me share the screen here real quick again. If you haven't used it before, and a lot of them, you know, are very much the same. They're free, or they have good options for teachers. Just go to Screencastify.com. Our school district is a Google school district, so that we get all teachers get unlimited. Check with your school district if they don't offer that to you. But Loom also is wonderful, L-O-O-M. I'm going to mute everybody here real quick so Susie and Catherine.
And Luke is on.
So there, that's why we turned it off. So then we're going to go, Catherine or Susie, do you have other ways of giving feedback?
There's just one, but there's a tool that I use that is called, oh no, I've just drawn a blank, Vocaroo.
Oh yes.
Vocaroo is great for just audio feedback. Mm-hmm. And so you create a file and then just send the students the file. And you can do that. One thing to do is if they have a Google Doc, if they've turned in a Google Doc, for example, you can add the feedback to the Google Doc just by attaching that link and then go through the paper with them, really, if you want to, and give your audio feedback.
And somebody said that you can do the same thing on Zoom. You could pull up the document in Zoom by yourself in your own personal meeting room, record right over that, and send the video to your students. Mm-hmm. There's Kaizena seems to be very popular in the chat. If you've used Kaizena, that's a good one.
I didn't understand how you could at someone.
So if it's the student's document, use the at symbol and you would start typing
minutes ago. Can you explain that again? But where do you do that? On any?
Okay, so I'm going to show that, and we need to make it kind of quick. But if you have some more questions, yep, I hear my time. So when you highlight something, and there's a little plus right here, it says add comment. So you add the comment and you go at, and then you would type in the student's name and it would pop up, and then hit assign, and that's how it would work. But we're going to go on to our next question. And just a second there, sorry about that, Catherine. She lost. So question number 5. Do you have any experience in teaching live and Zooming students into a classroom all at the same time? So that question be, if you are in a hybrid with multiple groups in one class and some class, okay, so you're saying how can we blend certain, like if you've got French 2, 3, and 4 kids all in the same room, what would you do with them? And how do you make engaging lessons for them all at once? Ooh, that's a big, wonderful topic. Who wants to start with that one?
I think maybe the question is about having students at home and students in the classroom at the same time.
Okay, I apologize.
And how to make the class engaging. And I think if you can certainly stream Zoom when you're in the classroom so that students who are at home can be included. And then when you have students doing pair work, for example, you could have those students at home in a breakout room together. One other suggestion that I would make is I started using Pear Deck last spring, and Pear Deck offers the option of synchronous or asynchronous learning. And so if you have a lesson set up in Pear Deck, this is an extension that goes with Google Slides. If you're presenting your lesson in class using Google Slides, you can set it up to be synchronous so that all of the students are working together at the same time, students at home and students in the classroom who would have computers with them. So those were my ideas.
And then to add on to that, Heidi Trude is on this call, and she is quite a good, strong, amazing, wonderful user of Pear Deck. If you look up Heidi, her last name is Trude. She can help you out with that. Other things that I want to point out, you could get a swivel. And a swivel is one of those cameras that follow you as you are in your room, and that's an interesting way to do it. Or you can set up your iPod on a special tripod that does the same thing so that you can record the class. You can live stream it on Google Meet. You can do that if you're not a Zoom teacher. Google Meet, just have your kids join in. They would be on mute most likely, so they don't interrupt your class. Any other thoughts, Catherine?
I think this is such a big challenge. So that this is gonna be my model. I have never done this. So many of you are probably like me, like, oh my God, how are we gonna do this? That's how I'm gonna have to teach in the fall. So I haven't really figured it out myself. I love the Pear Deck idea, ways to think about grouping students, or Nearpod I haven't explored yet, but I've heard that maybe have some advantages. And that my kids, their school, that's what they're saying also, that there's gonna be this synchronicity between the students at home and the students in the classroom. This is going to challenge our strategies. I think we still want to think, okay, how can we try to group students remotely and use our best practices? But I don't have the perfect answer for this one. I'm going to put in the chat a German teacher, Katrina Griffin, her Twitter handle. I was on a panel with her last week ago for NFLC, and apparently she has like 3 years of experience teaching with a little robot live in her class with students zooming in on a robot. So I thought, ooh, I got to follow up with you and hear how that went. So you might want to reach out to Katrina on Twitter to see if she has more ideas. That might be another resource.
And following up on the NFLC is all their videos are up on their website for free. You can watch. There are so many from around the country, not just French, but for other teachers. Rebecca had a wonderful keynote. Rebecca Bluewolf, ACTFL Teacher of the Year and AATF member, had a beautiful message for us is, throw out the things that we don't need. We're going to Maria Kondo this, that we're going to, do we really need to have all those vocab tests and all those verb charts that we're conjugating? So think about that. But I'm going to go on to the next question so that we can get through. Building relationships. How can we transfer relationship building activities online at the start of the year? I'm so excited about answering this one. Should we just start with social emotional stuff in the fall and start the French work a few weeks later? What's the priority? And then the last part of that is some kids don't have cameras or don't want to use them. We don't want to force them. And so how are we going to get on this? So who wants to start first? Because I'm going to think about my answer as you talk.
I'll start us off, but I think the building relationships piece is probably going to be more important than it ever has been this year. And even though if we're virtual with our students, it might be really extra challenging, I think it's incredibly important. I noticed Karen just put a link in the chat. Don't miss that for a resource. So are there ways we can do some of our team building games virtually? Are there ways, you know, having, if you've caught the Bitmoji craze, the Bitmoji classroom where you're sharing some personal information about yourself, trying to create a welcoming virtual learning environment. I think doing a teacher made video where you're sharing information about yourself so they can get to know you even if they don't see you is really important also. But as much as possible, I want to hear also obviously from Susan and Catherine. I just want to comment on the camera thing because my eyes were opened on this. I felt also really frustrated, like why aren't kids turning their cameras on? And then I need to credit a woman named Barbara Barnett, who's a Spanish teacher here in Massachusetts, who said, you don't know what's going on in the kid's home, and to require them to put the camera on might be very upsetting for the student. So just to realize, you know, if we're concerned about accountability for the students, we want to make sure they're actually listening. Are there other ways that we can do that without requiring the camera? I mean, they might not want you to see what's going on in their home, and for whatever reason, good reason, you know, whatever. So just being respectful of that, even though it might feel frustrating, like, why can't I see them? So just a couple thoughts to get us started.
So one of the first activities that I'm going to do with French 1 students and probably French 2 students in the fall is to have them introduce themselves using Padlet and give them some sentence frames and some explanations so that even the beginners can write some sentences in French, and then have them upload a picture and put the whole thing on Padlet. But if they're not comfortable showing their actual picture, they can choose a lookalike. They can choose a celebrity lookalike. Because the idea is not necessarily for everyone to see what they look like, but for them to introduce themselves and get a sense of who's with them in the classroom. And then a follow-up could be to have them comment on each other's Padlet posts to say, oh, I like this singer too, or pizza is my favorite food too, or, you know, things like that, just so that they get to know each other a little bit at a really basic level.
So that's exactly the same things. We're going to be just sharing as much as we can. I have an Instagram for all of the French classes. So it's one Instagram, and I don't follow students, of course, because you don't follow students, but they, you know, I put little challenges out there. I invite them to take a picture and @ us, or just use a certain hashtag like MVHS Francais, and then I can see those posts. That's just a great way to start off. One thing that I did for an ACTful, the Lil, was that they were doing treasure hunts at home. So they would give us a challenge, go and find something in your house and then you'd have 2 minutes to run around your house, grab it, have the thing in your hand, and start talking about it. And I'm gonna be doing this in English, just for those first couple times, and then I'm going to switch it into French. And you know, you don't want to get too personal with the kids. You just want to give them something to feel kind of like those people that do running dictate. It's kind of like the same idea, right? You're going to have the kids do something that gets them all out and about, and then back to their states, back to the class. Okay, so that's the call on this one. I'm going to share my Instagram in just a few seconds, but do you have a sample? This is question number 7. Do you have a sample unit in a blended format? And how should we start the school year with curriculum? Should we start over, or what's the best approach? Okay, so I'm going to share a few things because actually none of us have taught necessarily as blended yet. Some of us have been teachers that we've taught online before, maybe with a certain company, but I don't know of anybody that's really done a blended situation yet. Maybe some of the university people have. So I'm going to share with you real quick the units that I did with French. Let's start with French 2. And I didn't go with the Bitmoji craze, I just had a Bitmoji in this. This is the way I set this up, and I discussed that earlier. I've got the essential questions on the left, right? And then there's the activities 2, 3, 4, and those are the videos that I had them watch. Okay, so they were just learning about food. Then week 2, okay, so here are some more things. We have the same, we have the essential questions, and then right up here is a little video that I made for them, and then a video that they had to watch. Plus they had exercises. So like I said, I'm guiding the students through this, so they know it's week 2, they know the dates that they're required for, And I walked them through, and so I started at novice mid-level, and I was working them up towards novice high-level production. So now they're explaining why they like certain foods or not. And each week, I kind of upped a little bit, yet made it the low-hanging fruit. I've shared these out before. If you would like to, if you want to send me an email, the blended part is that I was teaching, how would I say it? I was offering my videos that I made plus the activities, and that's how I'm blending it together. A little bit of me, a little bit of activities, formative, and a lot of input. Any other suggestions from Catherine or Susie? Or flip-ons, that's good.
Yeah, I would just, whatever, so I would think, is it synchronous or asynchronous? So if I have some synchronous time, whether that's actually in the classroom with students or over Zoom or Google Meet or whatever, prioritizing interpersonal as much as possible. So I know teaching with masks and a distance 6 feet apart, if you're in the classroom with them, is going to be super awkward. But we still should be prioritizing interpersonal when we're live with students. So that might be a way I would think about structuring it. When do I have synchronous time with the kids? And can I do more interpretive stuff leading up to that? And then the synchronous is going to be interpersonal, heavy focus. And then following up afterwards, maybe I'm doing a more presentational task and sort of cycling again to whenever I'm seeing the students. So I guess big picture, in terms of starting the school year, Rebecca Bluewolf is on, and you can see her keynote from NFLC. I just need to refer you to that, and I can put the direct link to that because she had talked about that, and I'm going to quote her, which is she said, ditch the review unit this year. So I'll put the link to that direct presentation because that was a really smart way to think about the new year.
Okay, Susie, any last thoughts on that one?
Nope, I think we should just go ahead and on.
There was one other part that I wanted to address, and it just escaped me. It was it'll come back, but of course we always have those moments where our brains are going too fast. Oh, here it is. You know that the students, when we meet them, we're exactly what Catherine and Rebecca said, is where we meet them is where we're going to find out those little holes that they have and just keep on going with that. So the curriculum is whatever you make it. Let's see. There was some tech support questions, suggestions to use Google Classroom elements in other LMS formats. So I have used Canvas before. A lot of you mentioned that you have Canvas and that, you know, that you have maybe Schoology or something else. I use Google Classroom more of just as a basic platform, and some teachers are real heavy users of it. I can't add a lot of insight beyond keep it organized, number your things, and make them assignments. So go watch Susie's video, of course, from our learning segment. Keep it organized to the point where kids know which week it is, this link here, this link there, expectation, and we're set. There was one about using VoiceThread for asynchronous tasks. VoiceThread is great. It's one of those ways where students can talk to each other. You know, We say that you can put up a prompt, but there's also extempore. There's Flipgrid. Beyond belief, Flipgrid has really gone overboard with all their wonderful things. But there's a really big question on how to do the embedding videos in Google Slides, and I'm going to show that really quick because I feel like a lot of people saw that in my presentation. So here is my video. That I have inside. Let's find my video right here. Right there. So there's the videos that I'm putting in. When you've recorded something and it's in your Google Drive, you can go to Insert, Video, okay? And then if it's in your Google Drive, you can go and find that. Just throw it in there, and once you choose the video that you want to share, like that one right there, and then you can size it to make it fit inside your slide. If you've got a certain YouTube that you have the actual URL, the address, you can paste that right in there, and the same thing, and it will put your video right inside your Google Slides. You don't want to just drop a link in there. You do have to go through the insert video on there. So I'm going to end with that share. Is there any other thoughts on VoiceThread? I didn't use that very much. They didn't meet my needs back in the day. Okay. There was one last part of that when I should say, we're all feeling that handling the fire hose of information. But some schools are imposing the main platform like Canvas, Schoology, Classroom. But for the rest, how do we choose? Oh boy, that's a very deep question. How do we choose which platform? You have your personality, you know what works for you. If you need something so basic like copy, paste link, stay with Google Classroom. Canvas can be like that. Or just make a Google Doc and put the links right in there. It doesn't have to be fancy. You can use Google Slides or PowerPoint slides, and you can put your information in there, put a link, and that you don't even need an LMS. I'm going to say that out loud. You don't need an LMS if you just need to share information. If you want to give assessments and have it directly sync with your grade book, that's great. Then you need an LMS. So, Catherine or Susie, do we have time to do one more question? Do you feel like?
I think so. If we're brief, it is about an hour right now.
I'm just deciding between number 9 and number 10. Let's look at number 10. It says learning framework. Would you recommend covering all 5 E's in one lesson over multiple days? Can you share links with more information? Catherine, that looks like that's a good one for you.
Sure. So the 5 E's model, which if you weren't able to view our presentations before joining this, I've added the link a couple of times so you can go back to that. But I discovered the 5E framework when we shut down, and I was like, oh my God, I got to rework what I'm doing. And I just felt like it was a structure. I'm a very structure organized person, so I like having a framework for that. So I felt that worked well. The 5 E's, it can be one lesson plan. So if you're live with the kids, the first E, engage, it's like the hook into the lesson. And then it's just a structure that leads up to, evaluate, where you're sort of assessing the student's learning. So that could certainly be a lesson. I think everything depends on sort of what you're tackling, how meaty it is, and whether it could also be stretched out for the whole week. So I think it's going to really depend, but it could absolutely be a framework for one in-class lesson. I'll put one link to an article from Lesley University that talks a little bit more about the framework. I'll just point out quickly, it comes from science education, actually, where they're having students do really hands-on exploration of a particular topic, but we can borrow it from them. I think it'll be good.
Okay, I'm going to finish up with a few quick shares on the screen, if that's okay. We have also a link in the chat, and I'll put it one more time. If you would like a certificate of participation for today, please fill out. It's just basically your name, email, one idea that you want to share, and your next steps. But don't forget, you can also continue contributing to our Padlet, right? You can go back and watch our videos again. Okay, so we have those, and we've put those in the chat several times if you need more help. Okay, and as you remember, for session 2, that will be on August 8th, I believe. Let me just double check. 18th, yep. We're going to be doing moving from interpretive to interpersonal tasks. So we'll be sending out the information, the pre-work, 1 week before. You'll have a week to watch that, and then we're going to do another 1-hour recorded webinar where we're going to have a few other presenters talking to us about that. Okay, and then don't forget, the ATF has so many different resource platforms for you to go and learn and share. So I'm going to throw out a few of them. You've heard me more than 15 times talk about our Wakelet. Our Wakelet is an amazing way to share, and if you want to become a contributor on the ATF Wakelet, we're at AAT French. So if you look down there, there are different resources for activities, for online books. There are resources for choice boards if you need an idea of how to make a choice board. You have reading resources, AP resources, even for the new tests that we had this year. But we also have Pinterest, we have our Facebook. I will talk about the groups. I will figure that out. Maybe at the next webinar, I'll announce if we're going to use Canvas or Facebook or a little bit of both. There's lots of questions for me to discuss with our co-panelists on that. It's been 1 hour because we started about an hour ago, and we are not completely done. We have 4 more sessions to go and lots of learning if you have specific questions, please look on the Padlet or send us an email. We're here for you because this is how the AATF works. We're supporting you, as we're trying to support you as best as we all can share together. Your little bit of an idea that you think is insignificant could save another teacher for the week, for the day, for the year. Please always share what you have. Don't worry about the grammar. Don't worry about the vocabulary. Share what you have, because without 5,000, 7,000, if we each share one idea, every teacher will be set for the year. Susie, any last thoughts?
No, I would just, the only thing that I would say is be realistic with your expectations and be realistic with your students. Remember that they're just as stressed out about this as you are. And all we can do is do our best to support each other. And remember that we're working as a class first and foremost.
It's like the ACTFL 5 C's. It's connections, community, collab. You know, we've got all these 5 C's. Let's use those and be gentle with each other. How about Catherine?
Oh, I would just add quickly that I see a lot of other questions in the chat. Please recall we save some of the questions. So somebody's typing one right now that might connect to the interpersonal session. So we did save some of the questions for next time. So we hope you come back and
Yes.
we can address those at that time.
If you'll get that join code, I might most likely be using the same join code if I can set that up, but you have 5 different webinar total, and each time we're going to add some more information. They're going to be recorded, so if you can't make all of them, we know that a lot of you will be coming into class, whatever that's called. Our district just says remote until December 18th. That's what I know right now, so now I can plan. I know my brother-in-laws, they're not going to tell them until August 15th. Please stay with us and learn along the way, because every time you know a little bit more what your district is planning to do, you can put that down as one more stepping stone towards your successes. Okay, so we have one last thought, is just take a moment, go outside, enjoy some beautiful time by yourself, with a friend, with your family. And just keep breathing, okay? We're going to stop the recording here and invite you to, if you want to just say hello, goodbye. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Hi, everyone. Thank you.